From June 6 to 12, Barbados hosted Phase 1 of Exercise Tradewinds 2017, the 33rd iteration of the regionally focused, multinationally planned exercise, which dates back to the 1980s. Sponsored by the United States Southern Command, the exercise was designed to conduct joint, combined, and interagency training to increase regional cooperation for complex multinational security operations and humanitarian assistance and disaster response operations.
Two key areas that affect us on a regular basis within Barbados. We've seen the surge of illicit drugs, arms coming into the country, human trafficking. So because we are seeing more of that, we're going to focus on that this year. For the humanitarian assistance and disaster portion of it, within the Caribbean, we've had quite a number of earthquakes over the last years, and the fallout from that could be tsunamis, it could be natural hazards, it could be oil spill or something like that. So we're going to work on those things that could possibly happen should an earthquake occur within the region. So this year we wanted to look at the National Emergency Management Plan, and we found it was a very good idea to actually see what is in the plan, who's ready, who's not, what needs to be done to get that plan up and running, and how we can fix it.
It saw some 800 law enforcement, defense force, and disaster management personnel from 19 countries coming together for this unique training opportunity. And for the first time, civilians were a big part of the event.
The Tradewinds model usually would see a multinational force deploying to the host nation, embarking on a period of pre-mission training, and after that they would then embark on an exercise scenario where they will be required to respond to a number of different situations. This year we are actually trying to get the pre-mission training out of the way early, and that will be taken care of in 1 week of pre-mission and intense package pre-mission training before Exercise Tradewinds. And on the 6th of June, when Exercise Tradewinds officially begins, all troops would have gone through this pre-mission training, and they will be in a position to start to exercise and respond to exercise scenarios from day one. And as soon as the opening ceremony is finished, the exercise participants then go straight into what we call in the military battle procedure. So the focus this year is on being as inclusive as possible and to focus on interagency operations.
His co-director, Director of the Department of Emergency Management, Carrie Hines, explained why her agency was so involved in this new approach to Tradewinds.
The Department of Emergency Management is the coordinating agency for the emergency management program in Barbados. We have to ensure that all agencies are ready to deal with any eventuality, any emergency or disaster once it visits our shores. So the department educates the average citizen, the various agencies of government, private sector, non-governmental organizations, educate you on various hazards, whether natural or man-made, and what you can do to prepare, respond, and recover from those various hazards that may affect you. So for instance, we have the floods, there may be extreme fires that we would have to coordinate with the fire service, because it's not just DEM, it is the wider National Emergency Management System. You have the possibility of tsunamis, the earthquake hazard, because we are in a seismically active region and we need to prepare for that rapid onset hazard. Now there are also what we call man-made hazards, like for example oil spills. You may have very bad traffic accidents. You may have accidents involving aircraft. So there are a number of areas, a number of hazards that we have to deal with. That is why in terms of our mandate, it is a comprehensive disaster management mandate. That means that we look at all types of hazards and we involve all persons from all spheres of life, all the various agencies. They have to come together to deal with these hazards. The Department of Emergency Management has been involved in Tradewinds 2017 from concept to execution. We have a planning cell, a national planning cell, that does the scripting of the exercise, chooses the scenarios, deals with logistics and what's not for the particular exercise. Now there's also the participation part, where now there are other persons within the various agencies, and for this Tradewinds we have the public participating. So we have various persons who will be actually responding to what we have crafted, what the planning cell has crafted. There are also persons who will be evaluating and assessing those responses to see how well we've been doing, to identify any deficiencies in the system, in our plans and procedures, or in our responses to the various scenarios. Of course, with a view of trying to improve the system. It is not a pass or fail. It is really for us to improve as Barbados our responses to whatever eventuality that may occur.
Tell me about working with BDF. You co-hosted this entire exercise with them. So tell us how that went.
That was a very interesting experience. There's always a dynamic when we are dealing with the military, when civilians deal with the military, and it was a very interesting interface. It is one that is not unfamiliar to the Department of Emergency Management, and we work together to ensure that Barbados gets the best out of it in terms of the response to any emergency. There are tremendous skills and resources that the military brings to bear on any emergency response, and this exercise was no different. In terms, I smile because there were certain times when, of course, we may have differences of opinion, differences of how we approach things, but at the end of the day, we try to take the best out of it and move forward.
After a year's worth of planning, it was time for the opening ceremony. Troops from across the world, from 20 countries, have gathered here for this training exercise, and we'll be right there with them, bringing you all of the action. So make sure and stay with us and be a part of Exercise Tradewinds 2017.
The gathering, therefore, of almost 800 military, law enforcement, and disaster relief personnel, subject matter experts and observers from as far afield as Australia and Peru, along with almost 700 Barbadian volunteers, is indicative of the commitment to this annual exercise and, moreover, to ensuring that peace and security prevails in the region and beyond. Members of the general public too can benefit from the information which will be gleaned and made available from the exercise. You do not know when the knowledge gathered may benefit you, a loved one, or a neighbor in your community, if confronted with some of the challenges which will be depicted in the exercise's scenario.
One day after, the BDF bases at Paragon and Pelican hosted open days for the public to take a look at some of their equipment. So one of the events where the public could get very involved in Tradewinds 2017 was the open day held here at Paragon and also at the Pelican base. And one of the big attractions is the Black Hawk helicopter. Tell us about the Black Hawk helicopter. We only know about the movie Black Hawk Down. We don't know much about these helicopters. So who wants to tell me a bit about the helicopter?
All right, well, this is a UH-60 Lima helicopter from the Florida Army National Guard. We're down here to support Tradewinds 17. There's really nothing too scary about it. Maybe the unknown is scary, but we do a variety of missions. Like you mentioned, Black Hawk Down, that's just one piece of what we may do. We're here to support Tradewinds. We do humanitarian missions. We do defense missions. We do a variety of stuff. So if you ask me, there's nothing to be scared of about it.
How long have you been a pilot?
I have been a pilot for approximately 8 years now.
And tell me about some of the missions that you guys have been involved in, the ones you can talk about.
So what we've done so far is our reason for being here is more it's called CASEVAC. So if anybody gets hurt, any of the soldiers gets hurt during the operation, we're here to come in if it's serious enough and then fly them to the hospital. And that's really the extent that we've done here so far. We're also going to be doing a VIP flight later on, but so far that's all we've done here.
So tell us why it's so important for you to be a part of Tradewinds. Is this your first time coming to Barbados and being a part of Tradewinds?
Yes, my first time to Barbados. So the Army supports the Tradewinds for the relationship, and there's a requirement for aviation assets to be on the ground, like Lieutenant said, and it's to support the ground troops. So that is our main focus. So as the ground troops are doing their training, we're here to support them. So if they need us for various reasons, most importantly, medical reasons, is if they need medical attention immediately, we're an expedited method to get them from point A to point B, which is the St. Elizabeth Hospital here on the island.
So what are you guys looking forward to the most? Be honest.
Be honest. Well,
This is Barbados.
I'm a fan of food. I've been to Osteen's twice. That's fantastic. But it's experiences like these is really what pays dividends for us to be in the military, to come do stuff like this. So it's good. We like it.
You enjoying interacting with your young people?
Oh yes, they're very lively. They've got a lot of questions, some I've never heard before. So it's been fun.
So here I am in one of these Army vehicles. I'm going to learn a little bit more about them because I know absolutely nothing about these vehicles. We were just over at the Black Hawk helicopter. So first tell me your names.
I'm Sergeant Special Polanco from the U.S. Army from Puerto Rico.
I'm Staff Sergeant Manuel from U.S. Army, Fort Thaddeus, Puerto Rico.
Well, welcome to Barbados. Is this your first time here?
Yes, it is.
Okay, start by telling us about these, because all I can say is Army vehicles, because that's all I know about them. So start by telling me about maybe the one that we're in, and then some of the other vehicles that we have here.
Yes, this vehicle that we have here is designed to be a cargo troop. Normally what we do is have the troops in the back of the truck, and when we don't need to carry any troop, this vehicle becomes what we call a gun truck. You see on top of you, that's where the weapons system will go. And right now you're sitting in the position of the gunner. I'm sitting in the position of the driver, and that other seat is for the truck commander, who is in charge of all the communication and everything that happens and move and has to do with the mission of this truck in particular. This truck in particular is right now set to be a cargo truck, not a gun truck as of now. And you will see a couple of other trucks. Those are PLSs, the big trucks. They're basically our cargo too, but they're really cargo trucks, which can get any containers on it. And this truck, this cabin that you're sitting on, is completely bulletproof, if you will. We call it op armor, and the angle on the doors are also to deflect any enemy attack, any impact.
And I think I see also a water tanker of sorts. Can you tell me about that one?
Yes, that's the potable water truck, which is a PLS truck to carry different type of cargo. We also have the wrecker, which is the recovery vehicle. We use it as a maintenance team. Recovery, where you can tow a truck that breaks down, or a rollover truck, you can use the crane to lift it and drag it to safe.
So how have you guys been enjoying Barbados so far? So far, you've probably just been stuck on base. Have you gotten to see any of Barbados? It's your first time.
It's our first time. We haven't had the time,
Yes.
but hey, we're working here. We hopefully have time to go and see Barbados.
Okay.
It's beautiful.
Beautiful.
I have to say, it's a beautiful island.
I know that you will get time because I've seen there's some time in there for some play. So what have you heard about Barbados and what are you looking forward to do the most?
Oh, I mean, they always talk about the festivals or carnivals. Yeah, so sad we came
You're a little early.
a little early, but yeah, that was one of the things that we were looking into and see how the spirit of Barbados is. It's kind of the same as Puerto Rico, but we want to see how you guys really do and enjoy the festivities here.
And you, what are you looking forward to?
Have fun.
I'm surprised nobody has said beach. This is
Yeah,
Barbados.
But
we come from Puerto Rico,
Yeah,
which is
No big deal, no big deal. And you have rum too, so.
we have rums too, but we're looking into that. But hey, it's the same. But I gotta say, I love your island. Barbados is a beautiful island.
And Barbados loves Puerto Rico, I gotta tell you. So thank you very much, guys, for giving us a little tour of the vehicles that we have here, and I hope you enjoy your stay in Barbados.
All right. Thank you so much.
The BGIS crew, as well as members of the media, were treated to a live firing at sea exercise aboard the U.S. Coast Guard Winslow W. Greiser.
This vessel is one of the newer boats in Coast Guard. It's a 154-foot vessel called a fast response cutter. It was commissioned into the Coast Guard 1 year ago. It's based out of San Juan, Puerto Rico. Primary missions would be counter drug and alien migrant interdiction.
Now tell me a bit about the operation that we witnessed today.
So what we witnessed today is a kind of conglomeration of a whole bunch of different nations down here practicing for an event in case something were to go wrong. So today it was a gunnery exercise, so featured Canada, French, Dutch Caribbean Coast Guard, as well as ourselves, and we're just out here kind of to better the ties with the country in the event of something goes wrong.
What did you guys learn today from doing
So,
this?
what did we learn today? Kind of the mission this whole time has been constantly changing. So kind of what our captain has been preaching to us is operational flexibility. So things are changing constantly out here. So I think the biggest important thing that we learned today was the communication with the other nations and just to stay flexible and adapt to the situation as it arises. We had two 50 calibers going and one 25 millimeter Mark 38. The Mark 38 functioned as did the aft 50 caliber. One of our 50 calibers, however, malfunctioned. And during the exercise, this was unaware to me at the time, but when I went back to the bridge, we had actually been told that we shot the tow line in between the towing vessel and the target. So that was another something that happened that we had to cease fire for. So overall, though, it was very successful. Captain's very happy with the performance of our gun crews and got some new people to rotate through.
For security reasons, we cannot show you much of the counter-terrorism organized crime scenarios, but suffice it to say that this area was also covered during the exercise. The first humanitarian aid disaster response scenario was triggered by a 7.8 magnitude earthquake off the coast of Barbados. This triggered an oil spill and explosion at the Barbados Light and Power plant on Spring Garden. And a mass casualty in the area. Incident Command Captain Deborah Marshall, could you please give us an idea of what happened here? How many people were affected?
Basically, a number of persons were involved, 170 persons to be exact. These would have involved persons that will be residents of the area. There were some fisher folks that were involved that were part of the Pearl Bay fish landing facility, and then there were some persons who would have been patronizing the location. So most of them would have been involved. A few employees were involved as well, but they were safely evacuated.
Tell us about what types of injuries, were there any deaths, any serious injuries?
Basically, they resulted in a number of injuries. They had at least 5 critical injuries. These persons were taken to the CUNY Davis Hospital. Then there are some injuries that were treated on location. Unfortunately, we had a number of persons, 4 persons died as a result of the explosion, and 4 persons again died as a result of the oil spill that occurred.
So you were first on the scene and you work very closely with the police, of course, but you were first on the scene. Tell us how that works, and then when the police gets here, how that works.
So while we were first on the scene, we take a assessment of the types of injuries. We try to account for the persons, have numbers available. We also ensure that when the police arrive, that we were able to brief, give them an idea of what experience would have occurred, how far or how wide the casualties. While we are at Pearl Bay, some of us were here at this location, but the injuries sustained carry further down. So we had to be able to have that information to pass on to the fire service as well as the police when they arrive.
Sergeant Whitehall, she was able to hand over to you and brief you when you got here. From your end, how did things go? We saw that the road was closed along Spring Garden. Tell us about that.
Yes, in that event, traffic personnel were deployed, and we had the entire Spring Garden highway closed. Local access to a point because of the mass casualty situation that we have here. However, it was a smooth transition of the handover from the captain to myself.
And there was also a role for fire because, the power plant having an explosion is definitely a cause to notify the fire. From the fire's perspective, Sub-Officer Lever Jordan, tell us how things went from your end and how many of your personnel responded.
Well, from my end, about 12 persons responded with 3 appliances, and when we got here, we took care of the fire aspect of it and the oil spill. Then we proceeded to do some rescue, and everything went pretty smooth, and the event was well taken care of.
Now I want y'all to think not in terms of if this is an incident, and let's think exercise. As an exercise, is it too soon to ask how did it go? And I have Captain Adrian Ward, can you tell us how it went from an exercise standpoint?
From an exercise standpoint, things went pretty smooth because when we first arrived on the scene to assess the damage, what we found was the casualties were spread across the way. So the personnel on the ground, with some civilians as well, stepped in to help with the triage of the victims. And once that was established, we ensured that the ones who were more critically injured were taken care of and put aside waiting for the ambulance personnel and so on. The ones who had minor injuries, we borrowed bits of clothing from the residents and so on and patched them up until they got attention. The other ones who were critically injured, unfortunately, we could not have done anything for them. But from a standpoint of the exercise, I would say yes. Personnel and community got together well and did what we were supposed to do.
A big part of the volunteer contingent here at Spring Garden came from the Barbados Cadet Corps, and they are all officers here. We're going to talk to 2 of them. We have Dion Boucher and Tevin Maynard. Start by giving me your correct titles, sirs.
I'm a Cadet Senior Honor Officer, Dion Boucher, Admin Officer of the number 17 Detachment of the Barbados Cadet Corps.
And you are, sir?
I'm Tevin Maynard, Battalion Senior Cadet Honor Officer of the Barbados Cadet Corps, number 1 Battalion.
I want to ask you why you volunteered today, but I think I have an idea why, because the person who's in charge of them was a big part of the exercise today. But why did you come out and be a part of this exercise?
I basically came out to gather the experience of a mass casualty. In case that something actually has to happen, I would know how to respond to it, or I would know, well, this is what's supposed to happen, this is what's not supposed to happen, just to get a general idea and grade my knowledge on mass casualties.
And did it meet your expectations?
Yeah, to a point. When the response team got here, seeing how they maneuver, how did they say what casualties to go to first, who to deal with first, who to put for last. So yeah, it really did.
How did you think it went for you?
Well, I think it was a wonderful experience, being that as a Barbadian and as a cadet, it's an honor to serve your country. And I think that more Barbadians should have come out and support their country, because the Tradewinds exercise will expose Barbadians to the natural disasters and other disasters that would, if Barbados had to come into one of these situations, they'll be able to know how to respond, because Barbadians tend to believe that they're paradise and bad things don't happen. But the Tradewinds exercise would, if something was to happen, they'll be able to work to suit.
Y'all enjoyed yourself? Was it an interesting exercise? Okay, and I understand you're all part of a particular grouping. You want to big up that grouping now?
Just shows to note the number 17 detachment, Barbados Cadet Corps, we all here.
Thank you guys for volunteering and being a part of the action. And we're glad that you learned something that you can take away today. So thank you very much. How did today go? And were you a fatality or a casualty?
I was a serious casualty. I had shortness of breath. I was caught under a tree, and so I was pinned down. So.
What did you learn from this exercise?
Don't lay down under a tree when there's an earthquake.
That is a very good lesson to learn. So you got something to take home with you. How did it go? How did it feel being a part of it?
I think it went well in terms of their response time and what they did. They tried to keep me calm and everything. And the lifting, it wasn't as wobbly as I thought it would have been. It was very interesting. I think I would do it again.
Oh, very good. What made you volunteer in the first place?
I'm working with a child in the school, so I'm thinking, how would I deal with my kids in the wheelchairs, how to get them out, how to keep them calm, how to carry them. Yeah, so it really put some cogs started to turn in my head.
So much had happened, and we were only midway through Exercise Tradewinds 2017. Join us for part 2 and see how disaster management officials responded to the spin-off effects of aftershocks which rocked the island. And just when we thought things had calmed down, a mass casualty at sea. On the next episode of Tradewinds 2017. And check out the Tradewinds 2017 highlights on our YouTube channel, the BGIS. Don't forget to share and subscribe.